All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Marlins 9. As always, I'm your host, Jeremiah Geiger, and today joining the show is Kyle Sielaff, play-by-play, voice of the Marlins. Kyle, how you doing?
I'm good, Jeremiah. It's great to chat with you, man. I think the last time I saw you, we were in Atlanta, right? A couple of months
Yep.
ago. So I'm happy to hop on here, man. I know the season's wrapping up.
Yeah, that was the first Marlins games of the year I got to go to, so drove down to Atlanta and got to see a couple, and they won both of them against the Braves. So it's definitely good to see you and talk to you for a minute there. But as the 2024 season wraps up, it's been a frustrating year, to say the least, at least on the product on the field. Trying desperately to avoid 100 losses. And there's a lot of negativity, but at the same time, there's a lot of positivity. If you look towards the future, there's a lot of reasons for excitement. But I kind of want to get into right now just the story of the injuries this season. It's been absolutely brutal with the rotation. Can you kind of talk about that? I mean, it's been terrible. The most players used in a season, I believe, 70
Yeah.
and counting. So, just what's your thoughts on that and how it affected the team?
Yeah, I mean, it obviously affected them, right? I mean, you go all the way back to spring training, and we all got the news that Yuri was having elbow discomfort. One thing led to another, and that obviously led to Tommy John. Not sure he was exactly expected to anchor this rotation this season, but he was certainly going to be a big part of it, right? And Ryan Weather should have been an all-star. He went down. Haven't seen much of Braxton Garrett as he has kind of worked through an injury. So there is no shying away from the fact, Jeremiah, that the injuries have played an integral part in the losing. Now, on the same token, you can only use that as an excuse so much, right? And every single organization, every manager would say that look, you got to fight through. Look at the Dodgers. Look at the Dodgers.
Yeah.
They might be more hurt than the Marlins are, for goodness sake, right? And you see the situation they're in, and I guess we could chat about that at some point. But obviously, that's been something that they've been building over the years, right? So the key is when you do suffer kind of the catastrophic injuries that the Marlins have, and this is excessive. I mean, I don't think there's any shying away from the fact that this feels like the injuries to the Marlins. It's been a little excessive. I mean, they don't have anybody in the rotation right now Edward Cabrera, but again, he has dealt with his own issues this year as well. So they haven't had a full starting rotation. But it's played a factor. You cannot shy away from that. There's no doubt about it. And hopefully you just got to hope for much better health next year.
You mentioned the Dodgers, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that you got to call history, Shohei Ohtani, 50-50 season.
Yeah.
And what I think, I was thinking about it the other night. I think that was the best performance statistically I've ever seen. I mean, 6 for 6, 3 homers, 10 RBIs, and then capping it off with his 50th home run. How great was that to watch, like in person, and experience that and see that type of player?
Oh, unbelievable. I do think that may have been the greatest performance ever in one single game in the history of Major League Baseball. I remember a couple of days ago, I was chatting with Gabby and Steven before the game. I think we all kind of agreed, he can get to stolen base. It's going to be hard to hit 3 homers. Well, he did it in one game, so
Right.
so shame on me. But the guy is he doesn't orbit the same planet as us. He does. He really does, as Rod Allen would say. He needs to be in another league. They need to find another league for that guy. I mean, that was insane watching him, but special to be a part of. Just incredible to watch that guy. I mean, just an absolute freak.
Now, for the direction of the Marlins, obviously they want to get to a point where they're playing postseason baseball, much like the Dodgers. But at this point, how do you feel about the trajectory of this team? How do you feel about what Peter Bendix is doing? Are there things that you take away that you'd rather see play out differently? Or, how do you look at that positively or negatively?
Well, I choose to look at it in a positive manner because being negative, I'm just not sure what good that's going to do anybody, to
Right.
be quite honest with you. I guess we could be negative, but what good is that going to do me, you, or anybody else that
It's not
roots
going
for
to
this
change
team and this
anything. Yeah.
franchise? Because I tell people all the time, I'm fortunate they keep giving me a headset every day. I'm going to keep on broadcast, and I enjoy the hell out of it. And I'm going to be positive while I do it, because I just don't think there's any other choice. And I will take a positive route. And I would say, amidst all the struggles this season, and it wasn't easy to watch Luis Ariz be traded, not easy to watch Jazz be traded, not easy to watch them disassemble the whole thing at the deadline. I just can't tell you, as a fan of this team, Jeremiah, how excited I am to watch some of these guys. Connor Norby's come up and done a great job. That deal was incredible. And I know Kyle
Incredible.
Sielaff has struggled a little bit, although I actually have my scorebook right here. He got a couple of hits last night, right? Yeah. He had a double and a single and a run batted in last night. Now he's got a 5-game hitting streak. You see it with him, too. The way he moves, it looks a little different. He looks like a real big leaguer, and I hope that comes to fruition. Davis and De Los Santos, Augustin Ramirez in the Jazz deal. And those are just the trades, okay? The only way that you can get successful and be successful and sustain injuries and have sustained success in the big leagues, as you know, Jeremiah, is to build a farm system. And you don't just build it, but what you do is you create a healthy culture where the kid in the Dominican Republic is itching to get out of there to get to Jupiter, and the kid in Jupiter is itching to get out of there and take somebody's spot in Beloit, Beloit to Pensacola, Pensacola to Jacksonville. That fierce competition where nobody is satisfied. They won't be satisfied when they get to the big leagues, because they know if they're not careful and their performance struggles, somebody else is right behind them to take their spot. That's how you create a winning culture. I think that's what Peter's doing. I really, really do. And I know I just told you all this, and I said I'm going to choose to take a look at this in a positive manner. But I have said this on the air, and I'm not BSing anybody. It's the most excited I've been about the direction of the franchise in a long time, because when I look at the box score in AAA and I chat with Eric Bramer in Pensacola and Scott Kornberg in Jacksonville, they both tell me it's real. And they've been there a long time at their respective places. The talent looks real. The players look real. The players look like they're ready to get out of AA or AAA and help the big league ball club. That's exciting. Robbie Snelling, Adam Major, even maybe one of the, who knows, years down the road, if Bill and Head pans out in the Ariz deal, what a deal that would be, right? But Ramirez and De Los Santos, who I think we're going to see, Norby and Stowers, and Xavier Edwards. I think they have to find a different spot for him, because I'm not sure long-term he projects as a shortstop. He's had some struggles there. But I'm just excited about the real talent that's up and coming, the talent that we see here now. It just really excites me. And I think it should excite Marlins fans. And, there will be more difficult moves down the road. Who knows what next year is going to bring? Peter Bendix would be remiss if come next deadline and the Marlins are hovering, if somebody comes knocking on the door and says, we're going to offer you the world and the moon for Jesus Luzardo or Sandy Alcantara. Maybe you pull the trigger on that, because you might infuse 3 to 4 additional players in your system, and 2 or 3 of them become big leaguers that you can really count on down the road. That's the key to the whole thing. I love their draft, by the way. I thought they drafted extremely well. So it's going to take a little bit more time. Let's not be fooled by that. But you've got to be excited about the talent. Even in the first 10 months of Peter Bendix being here, the talent that's been infused in the system. I really enjoy that part of it, man.
I do too. I really do too. I think this is the first year where I've seriously taken or put attention on the minor league system as a whole, from top to
There's
bottom.
something to that, right? There's a reason you're doing that, because in the past it's been like, okay, maybe some of these guys, but now it's like, whoa, what did that guy do tonight? What does this guy do? How did he pitch? Thomas White, Noble, like, you can see it coming. And we're not just talking about 3 guys. No.
Mm-mm.
We could do this with 10 to a dozen players. Like, whoa, maybe, just maybe. And by the way, if we're talking about a dozen players, it's only fair to assume that maybe 4 to 5 to 6 of them pan out. But that's okay. That's the nature of the industry. But imagine if the 12 guys we're talking about now, 6 of them become real legitimate major leaguers that help this team, and you do that for multiple seasons. That's how you put yourself in a good position to win.
That's huge. I mean, at the beginning of the season, I was extremely frustrated, with Peter Bendix. I'm not an analytics guy. I think it's a tool, but when the deadline happened, I was ecstatic. Like, I was
Yep.
ecstatic. I said, no matter what my approach on analytics and the Tampa Bay Rays formula hasn't
Yep.
changed. I don't like it, but that deadline was incredible because
Hmm.
it wasn't just lower level prospects too. I mean, Davison De Los Santos, Augustine Ramirez, you'll be calling their home runs next season. If all
Hopefully.
goes well, like, they'll be up there. And it's exciting to see. I mean, Jared Cerna is another prospect
There you go.
acquired. And it's so exciting, like you said, top to bottom, watching these guys because I've noticed the progression. I've already noticed the progression. I mean, Robbie Snelling's 20 years old and just
Right.
debuted in AAA.
Here's
You know?
another one, Jeremiah. I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but he just
No,
came to
go
my
for
mind.
it.
He was one of the youngest players in AAA this season. He's already holding his own in the big leagues. How about Javier Sanoja?
Yep.
His
Yeah.
favorite player is a little Jose Altuve. What if he becomes a little Altuve for the Marlins? That guy was young in AAA, and he was incredibly good.
Yeah. I mean, that was another player coming out of nowhere. The talent is still there. He can hit. You can't, if you can hit, you can't take that away. You can hit, you can hit. Whether
Yep.
you're 5'7" or 6'5", like
Yep.
Judge, I mean, hitting is an awesome skill set. Everybody needs it. Everybody wants it. So
Yep.
Sanoja, another one of my favorite players coming up. I mean, the Norby and Stowers deal, that was incredible. Like, that was
Hmm.
just incredible.
Hmm.
So really exciting. And as the season kind of progresses, the Marlins kind of are playing spoiler right now against the Braves. I think it's kind of fitting. Last year, after getting into the wild card, this year they're not, but they can kind of effectively end another rival's wild card chances. They won yesterday, so that's kind of interesting that they can play spoiler against a rival's postseason aspirations. I don't know if you've thought of that or talked about
Oh
that to
yeah,
any of the guys. So
we
it's
we
kind of
chatted about
exciting.
that. We chatted about that last night. Remember last year in September, Marlins sweeping the Atlanta Braves to try to stay in the race and get there.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what, and we chatted about this, Stephen, with Marlins on deck. Myself and Rod did last night. I think Stephen had asked the question, is this like a look past me series for the Braves? And I said, if they're looking past the Marlins, and I said on the air last night, I thought the Braves had to sweep the Marlins to stay in the race. Now, contextually, I know that the Braves are still only 2 games behind the Mets for the final wild card. There's a big series looming there in Atlanta next week. I mean, the Marlins, if the Marlins win another game, either tonight or tomorrow, I think the Braves are cooked. I really
I do
do.
too.
But and again, I understand they're only 2 games back. If the Mets could lose the next 2 games and the Braves beat the Marlins in the next 2, they're all tied. But you have to look at it this way too. The Braves are 2 back of the Mets with 8 games now left to play. If the Mets go 5-3, that forces the Atlanta Braves to go 7-1. The Mets can lose
Right.
3 more games down the stretch. I
The
mean,
margin for
depending on what
error
happens
is
next
not
week, right?
there.
So the margin for error is very, very slim. So I think you could even see it with the Braves a little bit last night. They had the bases loaded with 1 out. They got the sac fly in the 3rd, but nothing further. Obviously, that's another team that's been banged up. No Acuna, no Riley. Totally understand. But you see teams like the Marlins with nothing to lose play with their hair on fire and ruin some seasons. And you can see it with the Braves. They're tense. They're tight. They know they're desperate to win games. And when you have to play that way, sometimes it doesn't end well. And this is an awesome opportunity, Jeremiah, for young players with the Marlins to play in meaningful games because big picture, it's meaningless at 57 and 97. I get that. But these games mean something, right? There's a little
Right.
hostility. You can sense it in the other dugout that they have to beat you. But these are important. These are important times for the Marlins.
Well, the Braves know what's at stake. I mean, they have to win.
Oh yeah.
And the Marlins, especially the younger guys, like you said, this is probably the first game they come into, the clubhouse and they say, well, we're actually playing and people are paying attention for the grand scheme of things for the postseason. You're going to
Uh-huh.
have in the 8th, 9th inning, if you're in the lead, MLB Network's going to cut away and go to that game. That's
You're
the
right.
type of atmosphere that the Marlins are playing in, and it's great to
Yeah.
see. I mean,
I thought you saw
wow,
Skip manage it that way too, right? I mean, Skip is
yeah,
managing. He, obviously go back to the Otani thing the other day. He says, "No, heck with that. I'm pitching to this guy. It's disrespectful if I don't. I'm not putting him on." Last night, Valente Belloso works 5 1/3. Skip very easily there in the 6th inning could have asked him to see if he can get 2 more outs, but he said, "No. You know what? Like, I've got a small lead. I'm going to my bullpen." And I'm going to go to my best guys starting right now to try to beat these Atlanta Braves, because you know what? That's how you do this. That's how you manage this thing. You don't just let Bayoso try to get 2 more outs. He felt like right then and there, after the homer was allowed, I'm going to my bullpen because we're going to try to win this thing. I love that. I really do.
oh, that's my next topic is Skip's tenure as manager and just the amount of respect I have for
Mhm.
him as a manager, as a person. I mean, with the Otani situation, I love that answer. I don't think it could have been a better answer. I mean, the fact that people would expect a different answer, oh yeah, walk him. Like, no, you play to
Okay.
win the game, you play and to attack hitters, and you give them a shot because that's the game. We play the game. And every day, I believe Skip's come in with the attitude of winning, whether he had, 30 players gone or 20 players, could barely suit up after the deadline. He came in and tried to do his best every single day to win. I've
Yeah.
really enjoyed watching the last 2 years of Skip managing the team. Um, but there are questions right now. Will he be
Mhm.
retained? I kind of want to get your thoughts on that situation. I've heard that it's kind of knowledge circulating that he might not come back. It's almost a done deal that he won't come back. What's your knowledge of that situation, and how do you view the Skip Schumacher tenure in the managerial position?
So a couple of things there. I will first tell you, I intentionally, even as an employee of the team, I really try not to fish for information, I guess, that people don't have, like to be try to be privy to something that's going to take place before everybody else knows it. Because I just don't know if, like, in my own mind, it's like good to have that, and that knowledge, if it seeps into like the broadcast type of deal. I don't know. That's just me just
That's
chatting.
understandable. Yeah.
Um, but I will say this: I read everything that everybody else does. And understanding there
Right.
was a big report earlier in the season that there was an option that was removed for next year. I see everything, I hear from everybody, and by all accounts, everybody believes that Skip Schumacher will not be back next season. Whether that's true or not, I have no idea. If you're a betting man and you're going to Vegas, I suppose you better bet on the odds that would, I guess it would be minus money, right? He'd be a favorite to not be back. I totally get it. Whatever. We'll see what happens. I will say this, as it pertains to his tenure, I really believe that he's had a massive impact on this organization, and he will continue to moving forward, regardless of if he's here or not. He's created a culture, he's created a standard, and he has shown them how to win. And that's very, very important, regardless of what direction the Marlins do choose to go next season. And I trust Peter Bendix wholeheartedly to make the correct decision if Skip is not back, to bring in somebody of similar ilk, you could say, that has the has kind of that burning desire and passion every day to win. Doesn't look past one game at a time, cares about the players in a manner that Skip has, that, you know what, I'm not going to be disrespectful to anybody that's not here. But what I am going to do is care about the 26 guys in there right now. And I wholeheartedly believe in every single one of them, that we can go out here every single day and win together. That's a culture. That's an attitude. That's instilling confidence in players that have doubted themselves before throughout their careers, wondering if maybe they're good enough or not good enough. Skip makes them, and has made them believe for 2 years now that they are. So I say all that to say, Jeremiah, I respect the hell out of the man, regardless of what happens. There's an old adage in baseball that you're hired to get fired, and that's the nature of the beast, and that's the nature of the industry. And I'm not saying I say that because maybe Skip is not brought back. I'm not saying he's going to be fired, but right, that there's just an option
It's
there
just
that
change.
maybe
Like change
correct,
happens.
and that would just
Yeah.
might be a mutual deal where they just say, hey, it's both. It's best for both ways to part side. But I'm just saying, in general, everybody in this industry, whether you're a player, a manager, or a coach, you're hired to get fired, because at some point players get older and they don't perform anymore and they get fired, right? Managers, have incredible career. How about
Yeah.
all the chat? Everybody thinks Dave Roberts is going to get fired if the Dodgers don't win the World Series. That's all he
That's
does,
crazy. Yeah,
right? But that's
the
but that's the
bar is
nature of the beast.
changing for teams. Yeah.
Right. That's the nature of the beast. So, yeah, that's just how I feel about Skip. I just, whether he's here or not next year, man, like his impact will be felt for a very, very long time around here because of how he's changed some of these players and the way that he's made these players feel about themselves and their ability to win at this level. So even if Skip's not here, his impact will certainly still be felt.
100%, Kyle. 100%. And as we wrap this up, the last topic I just want to ask you about is over the scope of the entire season. You've been here since spring.
Mhm.
You've seen it all. You've seen all the injuries. You've seen the call ups and whatnot. What's been your favorite moment, if you have one or a couple, of this season?
My favorite moment. That is a great question. It's a very tough question. I might have to pause this. I'm trying to think, just some off the top of my head. Um, I immediately just thought about Jake Berger's walk off against his old team. Thought that was very
Yeah.
cool. Maybe some recency bias. Jesus Sanchez's 3-run go-ahead homer, top of the ninth inning in Colorado, 5-run comeback in the ninth. I guess I'm just thinking wins and comebacks. Trying to think. Any really? There's been 70 players.
Right.
There's been a lot of cool stories. Just players that have been toiled in the minor leagues for a long time. Griffin Conine, great story. How could you not bring up Griffin with his dad and the connection there? I don't know. What do you think? What am I missing here?
I
Do
mean, for
you have
me,
any that come to mind? Any players?
The Jesus Sanchez home run was awesome to see. Trying to think of I think Beozo's start to
Mm,
his career, pitching against the Phillies, like seven shutout innings. I was like, wow, look at this guy. Just the raw emotion you could see on his face. That was great to see.
you're absolutely right.
Edward
That's a good one.
Cabrera, obviously, the ups and downs there, but at the game I was at in Atlanta, that Sunday game,
That's a
he
shutout, right?
shut him out. Yeah, 5 innings, shutout baseball. And I was like, oh, that's really great to see in person, a pitcher you root so hard for to really, try to establish some form of consistency there. But there's always individual moments that I love seeing, and I'm always going to root. I'm not the type of fan that is going to root for a loss ever. I get the odds and whatnot, but a win in this season, I'll take any of them, and
Yep.
some of the wins this team has had have been exciting and very, very exhilarating to watch. So it's been a fun season, a frustrating season,
Mm-hmm.
but I think ultimately, as we look to the future, as we look into the offseason, I'm excited. I'm excited to see what happens next because right now, none of us know.
Right. Hey, here's another one for you. Just a guy as I'm kind of scouring over some things. Not a particular moment, but a guy that I firmly believe has cemented himself as a piece moving forward. How about Jonah Bride? How
Yeah.
good has he been? He hasn't been great, but he's done everything really well. Whenever he needs to get a sac fly, hit a ball on the ground, get a runner over, get him in, has filled in well. I mean, his first base has been a little bit shoddy, but he's been a fine defender. That's a guy that's going to serve a purpose to help this team win down the road. So not necessarily a moment, but another guy that Peter swings that deal. And we were all told when he came over, he's like an analytical darling, has had no success in Oakland, but the numbers would suggest it's there. And well, they were right. So I just think it's so easy for folks to be negative, and we could all sit here and be negative and try to pick apart the things they haven't done well all year long. Why would they do this? Why would they do that? Well, I like to chat about the things they have done that have
Right.
proven to work out. Like what the heck, and that's one of them. So I think it's
Jonah Bride, Otto Lopez.
Otto. He's been one of the best defending second basemen
Yeah.
in all of baseball as a waiver claim. That's why you make all these waiver claims, because you just want to see. It doesn't hurt. Maybe it costs 10 grand to place a waiver claim or something. If you make 15 waiver claims, what if 2 of your waiver claims turn into serious big leaguers to help you for multiple years down the road? That's a win.
It's
That's a win.
huge.
That's why you're doing it. When you're 40
Yeah.
games under or whatever, that's why you do that.
And the last one I'll mention,
Yeah.
before we get out of here, Xavier Edwards' cycle in Milwaukee. I
Oh,
mean,
there
that
you
was
go.
awesome, right? As the
That's
rookie,
great.
it's like second cycle ever for the Marlins, and the player that hit for the first cycle is almost the exact same type batting profile. I
Well,
thought that
even
was really
crazier,
interesting when
that
you
was
realize.
Edwards' only homer to date this season. And after not
Right.
having a cycle for 30 years in franchise history, they've got cycles in back-to-back years. That's
Yeah,
baseball.
it's great. Well, Kyle, as we wrap it up, I just want to thank you again for coming on the podcast and talking some Marlins baseball. I love listening to you call the games. You do a great job over there, man.
Thank you, Jeremiah. And you have my number, man. So if you ever need anything, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm happy to hop on here with you and chat Marlins baseball whenever you'd like.
And with that, let's go fish.